Listen, for your invitation. So in summer, actually, I gave another talk, as Ellison said. It's about the armyworm detection, outbreak detection in South Korea, actually. But now, actually, I'm in the United States, so I'm talking about United States of America drone works. So this presentation is about kind of next generation tools. So uh, we already have a drones, sensors, AI, and natural enemies, but my lab is going to put together to make a very unique things that human cannot do it without drone. So that's the kind of purpose. So let's start with okay, hold on. Let's start with the drone. So basically, engineers generally use the UAV. It's called unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAS, unmanned aerial systems. But in the United States, we have a Federal Aviation Administration, and then they define the drone. It's called UAS, unmanned aircraft system. And sometimes we put S in front, which means small. So less than 55% of 55 pound, it become like a small unmanned aircraft system. So when we talk about drone, we have two different types of drones. One is a rotary wing. So there are so many arms, wings, and then propellers on the top. And fixed wing drone is just like an airplane. So if you want to cover a large area in a short period of time, and fixed wing airplane drone may work better. But if you want to like hover or stop in the air and to observe the crops and insects or disease in detail, then rotary wing drone may work better. So I think we always see this way. We have a drone, which is just airplane, and then depending on what we put on the drone, it defines the function. So it's like we have a truck, but if you put a lot of water, it becomes fire engine, right? And then if you have a small car with lots of seats, it becomes like a passenger car. It's the same. Drone is just airplane, and then depending on what we put, and then we can actually change the function of drone. So in general, we put sensors like a natural color or thermal sensors, which detects like a temperature and heat, and spectral sensors. You can see something, the drone and sensor can see something the human cannot see. So this kind of thing is very common in current drone technology used for agriculture. Uh, Also, we actually don't fly drone. So basically, we use the autopilot. It's guided by satellite. So basically, we give a command, oh, go there, take a picture, and then drone will fly there and take a picture and spray pesticide there, and then it'll fly, go and spray pesticide and return back home, and they'll return back home. So we don't have to like operate drone. We just push buttons, right buttons, and then it'll do automatically. It's called autopilot. So, okay. So today, actually, what I'm going to talk about is invasive issues in agriculture. So every country has invasive species, right? And especially in the United States, Eastern United States, we have a lot of the invasive plants coming from Asia. So we have been working on, like dozens of invasive plants from Asia. But I'm going to talk about two invasive plants today. So one is called the minute, and the other is called the Japanese knotweed. So these plants are actually beneficial plants or medicinal plants in Asia. But when they come to the United States as ornamental or accidentally introduced, they become they cause a problem. So what kind of problem we see? So one of the problem is all the invasive issues, we don't know where they are, right? If we see it, we can remove it or applying pesticide, but they can happen in somewhere human cannot access, and that's the problem area. Right. So my project tried to find out these invasive plants in the place where human cannot go and check. So that's the kind of our project. Fortunately, we have a natural enemies of these invasive plants. Where did we get those? We went back to Asia, where the invasive plants came, and then we imported natural enemies. I said imported, but this is about 5 to 10 year process because before we import it, we have to test for environmental and assessment and all of those. So generally, USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture are doing these things. But these insects are available now in the United States. Okay, so this is we call the classical biological control. So we import natural enemies from the country of origin of the invasive uh, pest. So now we have actually natural enemies. So let's talk about mile a minute first. Yeah, this weed goes mile a minute, like 60 kilometers per hour, right? It's very fast spreading the, the invasive plants. So this is a vine. Actually, it can like crawl up structures and trees. Again, in Asia, this is hard to find, and then this is medicinal plants. But when they come to the United States, this is what happened. They actually overtop trees and kill the trees. Can you believe this vine go over the top of the tree and then kill the trees? So this is what's happening in the United States. Okay, so the question is, how can you find these invasive plants before they are like spread this much? And even we find it, what can we do? Right? That's the question. So the first thing is how to detect this. So what we have been doing is we fly drone over the this target plants, in this case mile a minute, and every 5 meters up to 120 meters. That's the highest altitude we can fly in the United States legally. And then we looked at the image and what altitude we can actually identify this invasive plants mile a minute. And then we found that less than 25 meter, if you fly over with the drone, and then we take aerial images, and then we can see the signature of this the invasive plants. So which means using drones, we can find this the weed. So yeah, that's the easy way to find it. But what if the area is like 1,000 hectares or size of one big city, right? That's the kind of problem because we don't know where the invasive plants are, right? So we have to kind of survey it, right? So how we survey is actually basically we use the drone, either fixed wing or rotary wing, depending on the size of area and depending on mission. So basically we fly drone like this serpentine pattern over the target area, and then return back. Again, we are not flying, we program it, and then we push a button, and then drone does the job. So when a drone is in the air, they take a continuous aerial images, generally 75% overlap, so that we can put together. So this is kind of the general protocol for autopilot, for detecting invasive plants. So we have a target area. Okay, this is again autopilot. And then once actually the drone comes down to the ground, we download the aerial image. There will be tons of images, and then we stitch it together, and then we make a composite image like this. So this is kind of automated. Believe it or not, all of this process can be automated. You don't have to look at individual images. So that's the technology we have right now, as of today. So this is one example. This is about what, 14 hectare. This is a very steep terrain, and a human cannot go there because of the steep terrain and very hard to access. However, we could find the miter minute in this area because we flew drone, less than 25 meters, and then we put all the images together. So think about it. So now we know where the invasive species are, and the place where a human cannot go. And what can we do? So we know there are invasive plants, but we cannot go there and then remove it. So first thing we can do is we can maybe apply herbicide with drones, right? But the problem is the landowner didn't like put pesticide. because anyway, they cannot go there. And then once actually we apply herbicide, it clears, it kills. But the problem is different invasive species comes and occupy that area again. So that's another problem. So we were looking for like a long-term rather than short-term solution. So what's the long-term solution? Using natural enemies or IPM, right? Integrated pest management, using pesticide and natural enemies together. So to make a long story short, so now we know where the invasive species are. And then we have to deliver natural enemies in that place where human cannot go, right? So we are going to use a drone to drop natural enemies for each of these actually patches of invasive plants. So again, good news is we imported natural enemies and they are eating the leaves of milo minute. And then it looks huge, but that's the actual size, tiny, tiny, half centimeter, 0.5 centimeter. And then we are going to release these natural enemies in large areas and especially hard to access area by human. So how can you do that? Before that, there's a problem. So this insect is $1 per bug. Can you believe this small insect is $1 per bug? So which means it's so expensive. So we cannot just release it. We have to carefully release to the patches of minute weed. So this is how we release. We put in the like a cup and nicely place under the like a minute like a weed. So this is current method because it's expensive. But if we are talking about large area operation, we cannot do this way. And then again, this minute weeds occurs where human cannot go. So that's why we have to develop a method. We call the area release or area delivery. So this is the idea. So basically here is a natural enemy, $1 per insect, and then put in a small pod we call the bug bomb. Okay, I'll tell you later why we call it pod. So we put in the bug bomb and then put the bug bomb in the dispenser. So dispenser is dropping one by one. And then this dispenser is attached to the drone. Okay, fly over the target area and then drop this pod or bug bomb one by one. And then when this bug bomb hits the ground or canopy, the the cat is broken and then insect comes out and eat the myelin. So that's the idea. Okay. So this is actually the bug bomb, the prototype bug bomb. This was developed about 11 years ago, actually. So there is a straw, plastic straw, and then this is actually the paper. So and then we put the clay in the cap. So basically, when this is dropped, clay break and insect comes out. And then the other side look like this. You put the insects and then put the cotton. Okay, so this is actually bug bomb, the first generation of our bug bomb. And then when it drops, it looks like this. Can you see that? So this clay is broken. And then where are my minute weavers, the insects? Right here. So this is actually our first drop testing. Okay, so now actually we made a lot of bug bombs and then we made a dispenser. So how it works is, so this is a dispenser and you actually load 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this one is turning. When this one turns, can you see this hole? So this one is going to the hole and then dropped. So basically this is like a dispenser to be attached to drone like this. So in the air, this dispenser will turn and then drop the bug bomb one by one. Okay, so we made a lot of bug bomb. And then we had a target area. So again, this is a 2014, 10 years ago, but this is already autopilot. So we program it and then the drone will go there and then drop one by one. So that was our mission at the time. So can you believe 10 years ago, we already had this kind of technology? Okay, so this is actually the drones with bug bombs, and then it drops. Okay, and then this is actually our study really comes. I'm entomologist. I study insects. Okay, so we recover those insects and make sure they have all the body part, two antenna and six legs, right? So we found no body damage. That's good. And then we tested the walking and we observed the mating to make sure they reproduce after dropping, right? And then feeding, that's very important. So we did a 2-year study, and then we dropped the 50 meter above the ground and the 30 meter above the ground. And the control means it never been dropped. So we did the survivorship, we checked the survivorship and the feeding amount. There were no differences. So which means this area delivery, area dropping didn't affect the natural enemy. That's good, right? So that's actually the first study. We used the bug bomb and then we couldn't publish because of term bomb. So we have to change the bug pod. So interesting, right? So that was our early work, and then this is the most recent work, and then we have in the middle other works as well. But I'm just gonna present the most recent work. It's called the knotweed. We have a Japanese knotweed and giant knotweed. So this knotweed is kind of bamboo. It's not bamboo, but just like bamboo. And if you cut it, they still grow up because the roots are still okay. So it is very hard to manage. And this is where you see Japanese knotweed in nature. Can you see that this much? And then they are hidden sometimes. You know, we couldn't find it because we cannot go there, right? Again, in Asia, this is a medicinal plants. So, so the thing is, the detection of Japanese knotweed is quite challenging because they change their the phenology. So in the spring and summer, they are vegetative stage. In the late summer, they are flowering. And then in the fall, they make a seed. So, you know, these kind of complex things makes detection complicated. And also we have two different species, Japanese knotweed and giant knotweed. They are so similar. And then when we fly over drone, and in this case, Japanese knotweed, when we talk about Japanese knotweed detection, we are not talking about one farm. We are talking about 1,000-hectare area, or actually one city size. We cannot check the image one by one, right? So what kind of technology do we have that we have 1 terabytes of images and that we don't have to look at individual images to find the Japanese knotweed? Artificial intelligence, right? Machine learning or deep learning. So first thing first, we have to fly drone anyway to get the images, right? So basically, we flew every 5 meters above the canopy up to 120 meters, in this case, 90 meters. And then we found that up to 20 meters, actually, we can find the Japanese knotweed. We can identify Japanese knotweed. Up to 20 meters, we can identify giant knotweed. But when they are flowering, we have to fly only 15 meters above the canopy so that we can say that's a Japanese knotweed or giant knotweed. Okay, so again, this is so complicated, and then the size of data is so much, you know, when we fly over one day, we get 1 terabyte image. There's no way for human to go through individual images, right? So that's why we use the machine learning. So I don't know how much you know about machine learning, but I'll just give you a very quick introduction of machine learning. So when we talk about detection something on the image, you know, we use the software, ImageJ, Photoshop, right? CorelDRAW, right? We use that kind of image software. So what we do is we have a computer, right? We install the program, right? And then we put the data, and then we get the output, right? Oh yeah, find the blue or red area that represent flowers, and then you know, computer and program will find you, right? That's the actually algorithmic solution we use in general way we do with the programs, but machine learning is different. So we have a computer, we have a data, so we put the data, but we put the output as well. One more time, we put the data and we put the output. What we get out of it? Program. So basically we generate program. Okay. So, and then we can use this program to detect whatever we trained for, right? And then also, can you see that when we put the data, we are not putting one data, a lot of data, right? And then when we put output, a lot of outputs. So this can go about 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, depending on the complexity of the target pest. So, for example, for detecting like a Japanese knotweed, giant knotweed, or flowering stage, we had to use about 26,000 images just to train to detect these things. Can you believe 26,000 images and somebody has to say, oh, this is a Japanese knotweed, this is giant knotweed, or this is a flowering stage, right? So when we talk about machine learning or deep learning, you have to think about this is labor intensive and that we need the expert to say what it is for training purpose. Okay, so that's the kind of things. And then there are so many the models and architecture for machine learning. And then in this case, we call the swing transformer. Swing means shifted window transformer. Transformer, when we say chat GPT, right? The GPT, the T is transformer. This is also transformer. So we use it's called the CNN convolutional neural network, but the swim transformer is more like a state of art, more like advanced. It can handle like high resolution images and then different like scales or spatial scales of data. So this is a really good way. It is more actually the computer intensive, memory intensive, but still works for our Japanese knotweed, giant knotweed detection. So this is kind of one of the examples. So basically, so this is actually it's called the Tisney plot, reduce the dimensions. So basically, this is Japanese knotweed and giant knotweed far away, which means we can easily identify using machine learning. And then flowering stage of knotweed and giant knotweed, there are some overlapping areas. So there may be a little bit of error associated when we identify the weed. So anyway, so this is a really good the result. So now we have ability to detect Japanese knotweed, giant knotweed, and the flowering stage. Okay, and then now we do the same thing: survey it, stitch it, put into the machine learning, and they will pinpoint wherever the Japanese knotweed, giant knotweeds are. Okay, so now we found it. Going back to the same question, what are we going to do? We find the Japanese knotweed in the place where human cannot go. Going back to the same, and then this time herbicide doesn't work even. So the only way we can do is more likely using natural enemies. So we imported natural enemies from Asia. So this is huge. It's called a psyllid. It's kind of aphid, similar to aphid. It's called a psyllid. Huge, but it's less than like 1 centimeter. It's tiny, tiny. And this is adults, and these are eggs. Okay, so we have to deliver it. The problem is the beater we used for mite is so sturdy, so we can drop it and there's no problem. But this is so gentle and fragile, we cannot just drop it. And they cannot actually chew. They have a piercing and sucking mouth part. So we have to design this the bug bomb very carefully. So this is our idea. We have a natural enemy put into the bug pod and then put into the dispenser and go there and then release it. But the big difference is, okay, hold on. Oh, hold on. The big difference is this cover should open automatically. Okay, because when this drops to the canopy, it doesn't break. So that's why we put the leaves. And then, so this is our design, bug pod. And then we did this 3D print. So this is 3D printed. And then we use the polyvinyl alcohol, which means this is biodegradable. When rain comes or it has high moisture, it dissolves automatically. So this is environmentally friendly as well. So the idea is when you drop this and then seal it inside, and in 1 hour with under the sun, this leaf is kind of curling and then makes a small opening and then seal it again, come out. So this is actually what we did last summer. And this is one of the drone. So we try to use small drone so that we can fly low and then drop nicely because this insect is very fragile. And then after, drop them and recovered and then try to see their body damage, survivorship, and then, mating and all of those. So this is actually this was the first year. So we are going to do second year. Unfortunately, we had a big storm hit and then we lost most of our insects in the field. So we'll do it again. So this is kind of modern way, again, using drones, sensors, AI, and natural enemies, and then mechanics together. And so, okay, so this is my last comments. So basically, when we talk about using drones in terms of detection first, we have to operate drones in the field, and then we have to do the data analysis, and then we have to interpret, right? So this is kind of the way uh, the drone works go. But the good news is, we need a pilot and drone, right? For the operation, we need the analyst and software. Okay, it can be machine learning, deep learning. And then we need the expert with the knowledge so that we can interpret. So this is actually how we do it. And then the good news is everything can be automated. So we have a pilot and drone. Again, we don't fly drones. So we program it and then, minimize the human error. Okay. And then in terms of data analysis, again, we use the programs and we use the machine learning AI and so that you don't have to look at the images. It can be automated. The only thing we cannot automate it is interpretation because it needs a knowledge. And then this is a decision making. We don't want to have AI make a decision, right? A lot. So to do that, we need to actually next generation workforce. And this is where I'm actually emphasizing. Do you know, actually, in the United States, we just start teaching our agricultural students about machine learning and using drones. Okay. And but again, the future is about drones and machine learnings and automation and digitization and digital agriculture. So I hope in your countries, if you haven't started, operation and data analysis, engineer can do it. But last part, we should focus on the last part. Our students don't have to generate AIs. We already have people who can do it, but we have to educate our students to use it for future agriculture. Okay, so unfortunately, I have a lot of funding agencies and a lot of collaborators in the US. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That's very exciting. It's quite inspiring too. You've got lots of comments. Yeah, I'm just sort of soaking it all in at the moment. That's very cool to see and really nice to see the examples and just all the attention that goes into the different components and putting it together. So we have some questions for you, and I'm sure you'll have more questions as well as they come through. We've got about 10 minutes maximum for questions. But we might be able to come back at the end, Yong-Lak, and ask some
Sure.
questions after the next presentation as well. But a couple of questions here around, actually, I've got a question first. It was interesting seeing the first example and then the second example, the weevils, and then the second example in the Japanese knotweed. How cost effective is it in the second example? Because you have to drop each one quite carefully. I see the drones that are flying over and dropping each one. So have you got it to, have you done sort of a cost benefit analysis on that yet?
Sure. So this is the thing. So this is our research. So when we
Yeah,
do the research, we don't do like a
of
large
course.
operation.
Yeah,
So going to the first slide, we have a drone and sensors and mechanics and things. If you want to do detection and, for example, detection and release at the same time, so we have to put sensors and a dispenser, right?
yeah,
In that case, we can have to decide which drone we have to use. So basically, we have a menus, right? You have to pick to choose.
yeah,
So when you did the so this is the so the 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 purpose of our development is that human cannot do it without this system. So
Yeah.
for example, in agricultural system, pesticide applicator drones. Without pesticide applicator drones, we can still apply human, right? But in this case, we cannot do it without drone. So we try to do economic analysis, but there's no control because we can't do it versus we can do it. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we have a cost benefit the benefit cost analysis, not cost benefit. We have a cost analysis, and then what we found was as the acreage or the area increases, actually the cost increases, but not steeply. It's very, slowly. So the area is bigger, and then we get less cost per acre basis
Yeah.
because there
No, that makes sense.
is the cost, right?
Yeah. No, no,
Yeah.
no, that's great. And I totally understand you're sort of in the research phase at the moment, but it's just also interesting to think about the sort of future application. Really fascinating. We've got some questions here. Here's one. How many times releasing the natural enemies of the weevil in the weed fields to control effectively by using drone in the area?
Right. That's excellent question. So in the United States, USA, the problem we have is in terms of the Myra mini weaver, we have only one lab producing all the insects for entire United States. We are always short of natural enemies. So whatever we get, we have to apply. We know it is not enough, but again, this is actually more likely a biological control concept. Even though it's not enough to control first year, if they establish and then if they reproduce, and then we are looking for about 5, 6, 7 years of control. And then it's not elimination, reducing the population down to the level, you know, the environmental impact is minimal. So.
Excellent. Here's a question here. It's a bit more of a broader question, but if an exotic invasive plant is first detected in the country, how long would it take to develop the method to be used in surveillance to detect the plant in this new environment?
Right.
And is
That's
the
another.
algorithm useful in another country that is not where the algorithm is developed? So
Yeah.
could we take your algorithm and use it in somewhere
Yeah.
else where that's a pest?
Exactly. No, you pinpointed. So our next actually endeavor we already started is can we pre can we be prepared before invasive species comes? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so for example, what we do is we have a lot of fruit flies coming from Asia and even Europe and everywhere. But when they come, it is very hard to identify because we never had it before, right? So what we try to do is we go to the other countries and then get the image data and build AI capability. So we already know we don't have it, but when they come, we can intercept it. So that's the kind of thing where we are going. So basically, uh, so we can prevent or we can prepare for the invasiveness. That's one thing. And second, once we develop this AI, it can be used for other countries as long as that's the same species. So, believe it or not, when we did the Myra mini study, we went to Korea and Japan. Very hard to find. We flew drone and we found it for them because they want to conserve those, Myra mini.
Yeah.
But in the US, we use it for detect and then remove it. But in
Yeah.
Korea, they detect and conserve it.
That's a nice story. That's very cool. Does your AI also measure and input the environmental conditions to change the application during flight?
Oh, okay. Well, sorry, I missed the first
So
part.
I think this is when you have the application of your beneficials during the flight. Does
Mhm.
AI also measure and input environmental conditions? So say there's a wind all of a sudden or something, does it take into account that?
Right. So I think the question is about real-time application.
Yep.
So right now the system is we do the first flight for aerial survey of invasive plants, and then AI detects and give us geo coordinates, and then the
Yep.
next flight we drop. However, it can be actually combined as we call the real-time detection and application. So basically, as drone goes, if it detects it, why don't you drop it there, right?
Yep.
So one of the problem is before we survey, we don't know how much invasive plants are because we are short of natural enemies. We cannot drop in one place, right?
Yep.
So we have to do area survey and then estimate how much we have, and then we kind of allocate our natural enemies. But if you have an unlimited number of natural enemies, you can do detect and drop at the same time, like a pesticide, detect and apply pesticide. That's the same idea. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think the question was also that's a good answer. Was also if you had some sort of wind or something or some sort of local weather condition, does that drone also make a decision on whether to drop at
Yeah.
that point? Okay.
Right. So that's similar to pesticide the applicator drones. So the good thing is we can actually when we 3D print our bug bomb, we can control the weight. If you make it thick, it'll be heavier. If it's
Yeah.
thin, it'll be.
Yeah.
So we have a multiple versions so that depending on like for example like 10 miles per hour like wind, we use about like a 2 millimeter thickness so that it can still drop.
Excellent.
Right.
Oh, that's very interesting. And what are you calling it now? You can't call it the bug bomb.
Yeah,
Have you got a new name for it that's more
right, right. So
correct?
yeah, so we cannot use bug bomb. So we 2000, well, our study was done 2015. And then at the time in the USA, dropping anything from drone was illegal
Yeah.
because that's the only military purpose. So we couldn't publish even for 3 years.
Wow. Oh
So we
wow.
wait until
Yeah.
2018 and then they kind of uh made a little bit changes of rules because the Amazon company and pizza delivery company tried to deliver. Yeah, that's the idea. And then we were able to submit. But the problem is bug bomb was the problem because we
Yeah.
cannot use bomb in
Yeah.
the so we have to change it. Bug ball, bug pod.
Okay, so I've got one. I'm going to end with one more question. You've got some other questions, but I'll get you to jump online maybe and answer them. But since you're an entomologist, you might like this one. Do you consider the ratio of male and female insects when releasing it for more sustained weed control?
Yes, we do. So to increase it is actually not only for this operation in general biological control of pest using insects is before we release, we starve them for 24 hours. So make them hungry. And then when we dropped and then they don't go, they have to feed, right? And then second, sex ratio is very important. So what we do is we generally mate them first and then drop it rather
Oh,
than
okay.
mate them because we need to increase the
Yeah.
possibility of like egg laying, right? Reproduction. So which means we let them mate first
Yeah.
and then we release.
Excellent. Oh, thank you so much, Yong-Lak. Thank you so much for joining us again. A very great presentation, and you guide us through everything really carefully, and so that we can follow through. So it's just fantastic, really interesting. I've got thousands more questions actually, but might ask you offline at another point and maybe publish some of those because I think they're really interesting for our audience. And I know there's a lot of people that couldn't join us today that are very interested in what you're doing. So thank you so much. And we may have a few questions for you at the end if you can stay with us. But
Sure.
I know that you're on a different time zone in the US there. So thank you from all of us. And yeah, if you jump on the Q&A, you may have a few questions popping up. People, if you've still got a few burning questions, please put them in because Yong-Lak's
Sure. I
here
will.
for the rest of the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And